You ready? Hello, beautiful people! Welcome to Wisdom Bites. My name is David Jarzinka, and today is Father Craig Friday. You got your cup of coffee there?
I've got my coffee. I'm ready to go. I needed that coffee.
Yeah.
I needed that coffee today. Yeah.
Me too. I've got my Pints with the Aquinas coffee back here.
Did you have it blessed by Matt Fradd when he was here? Did he touch it? Did he touch the...
I didn't have
He should have touched it.
That would have been cool.
It would have been a relic.
Yeah.
If he
I hope he
becomes
becomes the same. Yeah.
I think he will be.
Yeah.
He seems like a pretty holy dude. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Better yet, he could be a canonized saint.
Did you notice that my mug is a Christmas mug?
Yeah, because every mass is Christ's mass.
Hey, that's right. And I picked... That's really clever. And I picked it out of the cabinet today. I was like, I feel Christmassy. And I started singing Up on the Rooftop of Old St. Nick. And then, yeah, it's good.
Nice. Cool. Well, as I said earlier, today is Father Craig Friday. And now, Father Craig Friday is not the time of the show when we take your questions. Sometimes we will, but not always. So
you just said it's not the time of the show where you take questions.
Right. It's not that.
Oh.
It's something different now.
Oh, it's a different time of the show.
Yep. We're going to continue to try this new format.
I understand.
So we're just going to take one topic or two related topics and discuss them back and forth throughout the episode to try to give a little bit more depth.
Okay.
So Father Craig Fridays is the time when we hear from Father Craig.
Truth. Preach.
Got it. Thank you, VeggieTales, and thank you, Silly Songs with Larry, for helping me to come up with that introduction. This is the part of the show where you hear Silly Songs with Larry, where Larry sings a silly song.
I don't know VeggieTales, man.
Well, I hope I don't get copyrighted for that. Anyways.
Probably. I mean, it's not VeggieTales. It's Legume Tales. Yeah, it's not Vegetables.
With Larry the Cable Guy,
Fruit
not
Tales.
Larry the Cucumber.
Be actually with Jerry Gergich. No. Wrong show.
Cool.
All right.
Alrighty. Well, we just had our Aspire conference at the time of this recording. We're doing this the Wednesday after Aspire. So let's start off with that. Father Craig, what are some things that stuck out to you about the Aspire conference?
You know, I mean, it was just wonderful having Matt and Cameron Fradd here at the parish. People on the podcasts and the radio and stuff are not just like... they're real people, they're not just like these personalities. And we think of famous people as some else. I guess it was just one of the big takeaways for me, just like the personableness and just the normal humanity of Matt and Cameron. And so it was fun. We get to have dinner with Cameron and some the ladies here. It's like a girls' night, and then Father Craig crashed it. And it was really nice just to see the personalities of them. So that's kind of my first takeaway, is just sort of like they're people, and that was cool. And then the talks themselves, I really enjoyed sort of Matt's story. I'd never really heard that before.
Yeah.
And sort of kind of the pensiveness, which his childhood was probably riddled with. Yeah. And just sort of his personality. And it's like, I'm familiar with that personality. It's very similar to my brother's personality.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And my brother drew all the opposite conclusions, but so please pray for him. That'd be great. And, I just thinking that I could just see my brother asking sorts of questions like those as a kid, and just the seriousness with which he took them. And so, I really loved how, like he sort of said, if atheism is true, here are the answers to these 5 big life questions, right? Yeah. Where did we come from? Who am I? Why am I here? How am I supposed to live, and where am I going? And those questions, it's like, okay, yeah, if atheism is true, the outlook to those questions is pretty bleak. And yet, if that it's not true, then what are the answers to them? If God is real, so what are the answers to those big life questions? And so that was fun to think about, and I really enjoyed that. That was really nice. And then his later talk was on pornography and of course, the effects of that. And I wanted to count how many times he said the word bloody, because he said that word a lot of times. And so the accent with the Australian sort of maybe idioms and ways of saying things are pretty fun. But just, the outlook on pornography according to science was pretty fun. Just to kind of know, here are the effects of this just from a secular science view on the human person. And it lines up with what we've taught as a church for thousands of years. And so that was really good as well. to sort of get that perspective. And he had some really good advice too about parenting. And apparently he has a whole talk on this too that he gave, and I didn't get to hear that talk at a different night here in the area. Mm-hmm. But those are some of my initial takeaways. I liked Cameron's personableness. She's just such a lovely woman and just so approachable and just accessible to our students, which is really wonderful. And she had some really good things to say about Tara
and her hairstyling.
That's
skills.
Right. Yeah. I almost mentioned Tara in the homily.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We could also call Tara Hera as a nickname, but that would be weird.
Yeah, it would be weird.
Okay, yeah. I was trying to the pun, but it didn't work.
Yeah. Tara, you should tell us what you think. Yeah. Do you like the nickname Hera?
Tara, do you watch our show? I saw you today, so you should tell me tomorrow.
Yeah, and we're going to consider a no answer as a yes, just for the record.
Everyone watches my show.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yep. So, sorry, we're talking about Cameron's talk, though.
Yeah. Just thinking about some of the things that she did as a podcast, live podcast, had some questions on there. And, one of the fun questions we kept talking through later in the dinner was, how can guys and girls be friends with good boundaries, especially if you're not looking to date or not in a place to date.
Right.
And that conversation was fun with Matt and Cameron over dinner that night, and some of their friends who came in, Charity, and I think other guy who was Colin, I think was there as well. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, Colin, if I got your name wrong. But it was a good conversation, and I wish we could have talked more, but I had to run to confessions. So yeah.
Well, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed it too. It was kind of cool for me because I was sitting behind the camera booth the whole time and knowing that, like, oh my gosh, like she's going to put this out on her podcast. I think she just does an audio podcast, so all the work they put in on the video side isn't going to go anywhere. But to just do the audio recording side was really neat, and to try to think through, like, okay, I think her level of expectation is probably higher or different from like the normal baseline, and trying to like really put the best foot forward on that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, sorry, those nerdy backstory stuff, but
that's fun. Yeah. So you're vicariously famous.
Right.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah. You produced a professional podcast.
Oh, that's a resume line item.
That. Yeah. What do you need a resume?
I mean, a memoir line item.
It's right. He does not need a new resume. He is working here. He is not available. Thank you very much.
Right. Yeah, but I don't know where to go from here. Yep.
Yeah.
Burp, derp, derp, derp.
Yeah. So what did you think about Matt? And I know you took away that phrase and you've held on to it, G.L.U.E conversations. What do you think about that? What does that mean?
Yeah. So let me back up really quickly. So it's been interesting to see just like hit the rewind button on your VCR.
He's backing up. Beep.
Oh, I was rewinding.
You said back it up a little bit.
That's pretty good.
I tried.
We're like almost on the same wavelength. We're so close. But the 7 porn myths talk, he's been giving that talk for probably 10 years, and it's probably the 7th time I've heard it.
Right.
And it's been really cool to hear how it's evolved and how like he keeps learning and keeps adding to that talk and changing things. And one of the emphases that he
put,
is that, like, throughout much of my lifetime, at least, like, pornography has been seen as like a men's issue, and like women don't struggle with it. And so it, like, when there are women who do struggle with it, they feel ostracized. Like, I'm not even supposed to be struggling with this. Who could I possibly talk to? Who could understand this? And he sort of changed the gender of the talk, to refer to both him and her, and like to be a little bit more inclusive in that was the first time I'd heard him do that. And, I hope that it had the impact that he was looking for, because it was good.
And he's also telling us some good news that he's had the Strive 21 program for a while now, but they're putting together one for women, specifically targeting and reaching out to women, because I think a lot of women do feel alone in that struggle, and they're not alone. So,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Very good. So, but yeah, his first talk before that was on God, life, the universe, and everything.
G.L.U E.
And he called them G.L.U E conversations, which brings us into a question from our audience, our listeners, not our users, our listeners, our viewers. Someone asked, what might the highlight reel at the end of your life look like? So I don't know if this question is coming from like a, like you see the light at the end of the tunnel and your life flashes before your eyes, or just like, what are some highlight reel moments? What do you think of that, Father Craig?
Well, I think it's fascinating. I think, what are the things that we're going to remember when this life is over? And, I think a lot of times people think in the moment it's going to be one thing, but when you look back years later, the things that were important were something entirely different. And I think the place where I really have experienced this in sort of my priestly ministry is at funerals. And, what people are remembering about the people is not how many hours they worked or how much money they made or how popular they were or anything like that. The things that people are remembering are the things that have more value than that. They're going to remember that, their grandfather spent time with them. They're going to remember that their grandfather, always, had a funny joke or a smile or, read to them a book or something like that. Like the things that people remember, sort of that highlight reel of things that really mattered, looks different at the end of one's life. And we know the saints, for example, would often ponder death, and I think we ought to as well. Remember that you are dust, and to dust you shall return. We're told every Ash Wednesday, or repent and believe in the gospel, I think is the other proclamation. Like, we really ought to remember our mortality and the end of this earthly life, and that we're made for eternity. We're not made for sort of this earthly living. And that changes the way you look at things, the way you add value, the things that are lasting and enduring. And I think this question in the G.L.U.E conversations is like, bigger question, what really matters?
Yeah.
What are the important things? Like, what gets our priority? What gets our attention? What gets our time? And can we align those things up?
Yeah. Right.
And I think G.L.U.E conversations, God, life, the universe, and everything. The answer is 42, I suppose, but I read Douglas Adams, don't worry. Actually, anyway. I think, what are the highlight reel at the end of our life going to look like? You might ask this question instead, maybe, what sorts of things is God really going to judge us on? And, and I think it's going to have to do with how loving we've been. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean this just sort of in the sentimental sort of sense, but I mean, did we choose, right, to order our lives according to the principles of God and that loving action of God, in loving God and others, as we love ourselves. And so that highlight reel, like, I think there's going to be some things that you didn't even, maybe think about that are going to show that loving action. And we're going to see those things maybe at the end of our lives. And you may not think it's a big deal when you reached out to that guy who was sitting by himself and struggling, but you reached out to him and that changed his life, right? And you invited him into community encounter with Christ, and he had that. Like, there's gonna be things, I think, as a priest that I never even thought were that big of a deal, and ended up being huge for people. And I've had this experience. Yeah. So I've done lots of confessions and lots of masses and gone to retreats and things. And there'd be things I just think, oh, it's another night at work, right? And then years later, I ran into a girl at a Sikh conference a few years ago, and she came right up to me and said, Father Craig. And I recognized her, but I didn't know her. Mm-hmm. And she said, you came to a confirmation retreat years and years ago, and it changed everything for me, and I'm here. And I was just like, wow. I don't remember that. And yet that might be on the highlight reel,
Yeah, that's pretty good. I think there might be something too. I know Hollywood has the person, like, in the moment of death, they see all their like highlight reel things, like their life flashes before their eyes, that, while it may not physically happen, I don't know, I haven't died. But, I imagine that people on their deathbed are looking back at their life like, man, did I live a good life? Am I happy with the way that I lived? And so I think, this is why the saints reflect on death often, I'm sure, is to make sure that those things that we say are most important take the sort of primacy of place in our lives.
Do you know which saint it was who was asked, like, if they knew they were going to die today, what would they go and do? And their response was something along the lines of, I would do exactly what I'm doing right now because I'm trying to do what God is calling me to in this moment.
That sounds like a St. Francis of Assisi thing, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, it's probably a bad paraphrase as well. But I mean, it seems to make sense to me. Like we want to live life in such a way that if that is true, right, that God is going to judge us and we want to be in union with his will, that like we are in union with that will at any given sort of time or moment. And whenever death comes, that we want to be prepared for that. The scripture tells us that if we'd known the day or the hour, right, we would have been ready.
Yeah.
But we know not the day or the hour, so we should continually be ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
St. Alphonsus de Liguori has a little 60-page pamphlet it's called Uniformity with God's Will, that kind of talks about all of these things that I try to read it every couple of years or so, of just like this another spark of like, oh yeah, like that's exactly what we're trying to do, is to remain in union with God's will in everything that we're doing.
Yeah. And I really love G.L.U.E conversations for that reason. Like I don't really like having incredibly superficial conversations. I get really frustrated with them sometimes, and I've come to realize the importance of them. And they're sort of on-ramps for some of the deeper things, and they're just sort of like ways of expressing, a desire to be with somebody in a certain time, or an acceptance or a hospitality and these sorts of things. But I like the conversations that talk about the more meaningful things, and they help me feel situated in this world, and they help me feel like there is meaning and purpose in what we're doing. And I think G.L.U.E conversation should be a regular part of our days and lives. It'd be good.
Absolutely. So you listening out there, get under the stars, realize how small you are in the expanse of the universe, and talk about the most important things.
And have a morally appropriate level of beer according to your state in life.
Yes. So if you're under 21, that's 0, just to be clear.
That's right. Unless you're in Europe.
That's fair. Yeah. If we have any European listeners, please comment, because that would be
Do we have European
phenomenal
listeners? If you don't respond, that means yes.
Perfect. That's our mindset here. Okay. So I think that's all the time we have for today. Oh. But please be sure to follow us on Instagram at OLOWTXState. Father Craig would like to say something else.
Always. I was just saying, I was just kind of wondering, like, maybe, have you ever just wondered if like we're just sitting around here each time we do this show and we're just talking to ourselves?
Like no one is ever watching.
No one's watching it. We're just doing this.
No, I do check the metrics. Okay. Yeah.
So like
there's several dozen.
6 people. My mom, my dad. My mom probably watches it twice. Your mom too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, we do have a loyal fan base that's listening regularly.
Actually, I do know that someone else is watching it.
How do you know?
Because a producer from The Inner Life on Relevant Radio called me and asked me to be on the show. From our YouTube channel. Yeah. So I'm going to be on Relevant Radio. It'll be kind of cool.
Awesome.
I know. So
glad to hear.
Guess. I think they're running out of guests.
Okay, well, let's get this guy from San Marcos. That'll work.
I know. So thanks, Nick.
Yeah.
Appreciate you get me on the show. I'll be coming up.
Good stuff. So be sure to follow us on Instagram to know about all the things happening here at Our Lady of Wisdom. And we are going to be taking more questions in the future, so please continue to send those in to podcast@txstatecatholic.org if you have any questions that you would like Father Craig to answer on the show. And that is all the time we have for today.
Our Lady of Wisdom,
pray for us.